Hello lads, hope you're having an amazing day so far. Today we're going to be talking about car finance and just going over a few things about if it's a good idea to get finance on your first car or maybe your next car you're looking to upgrade or something like that. Because again, I'm not a financial expert, but I can tell you a few of the things that you can kind of want to avoid when you're looking at getting a new car on finance, and a few ways to avoid getting in over your head when you're looking to finance a car as well, because that's one of the things a lot of people tend to do is they go for something that's a little bit out of reach and then find themselves paying a hell of a lot more money than they expected, and it can get a bit problematic from there. So let's have a chat. Unfortunately, no handbrake turn for the start of this video, but we're not in Mexico today. So no handbrake turns when we're not in Mexico, because we abide by the rules. Actually, no, because we're not on a racetrack in Mexico. So we abide by the public rules, boys and girls. So a lot of petrol heads around the world and people who are into cars big time will generally be against financing cars, from what I've found anyway, because for a lot of the time it's not yours until that final payment, and sometimes in certain leasing situations it's not yours at all and never will be. So it's that kind of ownership thing that I think a lot of petrol heads find a little bit of pride in. But in my eyes, under certain circumstances, it's not a bad thing for finance. So the main terms of finance you've got are PCP, which is personal contract purchase, HP, which is hire purchase, leasing, pretty simple, and then a bank loan. And those are sort of the main things that people use to finance cars. All with various pros and cons to them. It gets really in-depth, like personal contract purchase, hire purchase. They're very similar, but there's very slight differences, and especially to how much you're going to end up paying as well in the long run. The thing is with finance is it entirely depends on your monetary situation, whether you have a full-time job, a part-time job, how much money you earn, if you're self-employed, that sort of thing. The thing I'd say is don't let your car payments exceed anywhere sort of to 20 or 30% of what you earn. So if you're earning like £3 a month, don't really spend any more than 300-400 quid a month. Any more than that and it will start eating into your bank balance. Especially if you're only earning like 1,200 quid a month or something like that, and then you decide to, or you manage to secure like a 400-500 quid a month car payment. That's pretty much half of what you earn going straight into your car, not including insurance, not including tax, petrol, any of that fun stuff. So be careful with how much you're prepared to spend on that monthly payment. So PCP is pretty straightforward. You put a deposit down, you agree to a monthly payment, and then at the end of the agreement you either give your car back and the dealer then sells it and keeps the cash for themselves, or you pay them a sort of agreed cost at the end. So say if you put 2 or 3 grand down, you're paying 250 quid a month, and then at the end there's like 5 grand to then buy the car off them. That was just a rough, a random amount of numbers, but it's that sort of thing, right? And it's pretty damn common. Hire purchase is different in the fact that you've got an agreed deposit, you've got agreed monthly payments, except there won't be a massive balloon at the end that you have to pay off, or you won't give the car back. You'll just pay what you need to get the car cleared. So it might be over a longer period of time as well. This will generally mean that it will be more expensive on a monthly basis because you're actually paying the whole car off anyway, and the deposit might be higher too. And then there's leasing, which is really simple. It's just like if you were going to hire a car for just a long period of time, it's that pretty much. So you put a deposit down, you get the car, you know exactly what you're paying monthly, and then at the end of the agreement you give it back and start another agreement if you want to carry on with that same dealership and just get another car. So it's quite cool in the fact that every 2 years you can get a new car, technically, even though you never own it. It's part of the dealership, and if you any wear and tear, you have to make sure you get sorted before you give it back, otherwise there can be some pretty big costs in terms of that. So the question, should you finance your first car? You see so many people with the sort of limited edition courses on finance and things like that. That's the stereotype. Shout out to my limited edition Corsa boys and girls. It entirely depends if you've got a stable little job. If you've got a stable job and you need a car and you can't save up for a year or so, you've just got to get a car, you want something new, then fine, go for it. As long as you can afford it and you're sure that you're not going to be out of a job in 2 months and in the gutter, because then you can get some real problems with the finance companies, especially if it's not a lease and you can't just give the car back. Is it smarter to save up and get something that you own, really want? Yeah, potentially. So financing is one of those things where it's actually better the more money you have. And some people think that, oh, financing's meant to get people with less income into better cars and that sort of thing. Well, I think it's the other way around, really. It's the more money you have, the better it is to sort of split that up into monthly payments, in my eyes, if it's just a normal car, rather than dropping. Say you were looking at getting like an expensive Mercedes C63 AMG, right? Just an example. Big German saloon, V8, all sorts of fun. But it's like 60 grand if you're just gonna put cash down on that, right? 60 grand. So you had 100 grand to spend. Normally, you'd have then 40 grand to do other things with, but if you put that on finance and you're paying 500 quid a month, or I don't know, 700 quid a month, something like that, then you've still got the rest of that money to invest into other things and make more money off. So technically that makes more sense. You can take the time to save up. If you're on less income and you can take the time to save up for something smaller, especially as your first car, and spend £2,000 or £3,000 on something like a hatchback that you can learn in, then that I would say is the way to go, and wait until you're earning more money to really finance something better and go that direction. And get to grips with driving before you start getting something fancy. I think that's the traditional route, is getting like, not necessarily a banger, but something cheaper that you can learn in, and maybe you're going to do a clutch in, maybe you're going to curb some wheels when you're learning, that sort of thing. So moral of the story really is, guys, be careful with finance. Again, if you've got that stable income, then sure, go for it, but make sure you're not getting in over your head. Keep it to that sort of 10, 20, 30% of your income bracket if you can, so you've got, you know, loads of headroom to pay for all the extras you'll need when driving and for just living. Personally, I was kind of looking into maybe running a hire purchase on a Leon Cupra or that sort of thing. But I'm almost considering saving instead now for like an older Type R, Civic Type R EP3, or like an older Cupra or something like that. Just so I own it and I can play with it. And especially with some finance deals, especially leasing, you can't mod the car and give it back to them. It has to be returned in original condition. So that's no fun. I want to be able to play with my cars and have a bit of fun with them on the side. So factor that into your decision when you're making that sort of thing too, and you're looking into finance. Guys, remember, before any big decisions, go and chat with a financial advisor, or really do your research online and make sure you have the cash to float for it. Thank you for listening to today's video. Just a short one today. Got a car meet one coming up soon, and we've got some really cool, interesting videos coming up. I'm waiting for a new mic and some film gear to experiment with. Thank you for being here, guys. Make sure you drive safe, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.